Welcome back to the Guys as a Social Work podcast and our Remember Me series, where we highlight the voices and programs making a difference for older adults, caregivers, and families here in Alabama. I am your host, Renita Ray Davis, and today I'm delighted to be joined by DeLane Poague, Dementia Friendly Alabama Project Coordinator with the Central Alabama Aging Consortium. DeLane grew up in a small community of Fleahop, Alabama, and graduated summa cum laude from Auburn University, War Eagle, with a degree in social work. Her path of service has taken her through many avenues: foster care, supporting underprivileged youth, Meals on Wheels, residents in long term care, and most recently, people living with dementia. She began working at the Central Alabama Aging Consortium in 2016 as a long term care ombudsman, and in 2021 transitioned into her current role leading the Dementia Friendly Alabama initiative. This effort builds dementia friendly communities across the state so that people living with dementia, their caregivers, and their care partners can truly live and thrive. Outside of her professional work, you can find DeLane on the family farm in Fleahop, where she lives near her parents and brother. I can't wait for you to hear her story and the heart behind this important work. Welcome to the show, Delane.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yay. I want to start getting those little yay banners because I'm like, yay.
And a big war eagle too. So
Exactly. Yeah, the big war eagle. Yes, yes, yes. I was in Auburn this weekend. It's still so beautiful. I went to Auburn. I got my BSW from Auburn, and so I don't think I told you that.
that's
So
awesome. Yes.
yeah, yeah. So I love
Even
that
better.
you're a graduate from Auburn as well. But before you went to Auburn, Delane, I'm wondering, what did you imagine yourself doing as a child, or who shaped your early ideas of care and service?
I think I wanted to be so many things. Like growing up
Mm,
on a farm, definitely wanted to be a veterinarian because I was going to take care of dad's animals, like the cows and the horses and everything. And I also, mom put me in dance from an early age, like age 3, I started taking dance. So I was going to be a dance teacher too. And then I went on and decided to do pre-med for a while when I finally got to Auburn. And so I just wanted to do so many things. But I knew one thing is I did not want to be a teacher because my mom was a teacher and my brother was a teacher. And so I said, hey, I am not going to school to do that because that's just my personality. I have to do something completely different than the rest of the family. And so it was just kind of for a while there at Auburn, I just kind of rotated around on majors, honestly. Like I was going to be a Spanish major for a while because I was taking Spanish classes. But I really think just I was there having a good time for a while too, I'll be honest with you too. And then finally my dad was like, "Okay, we need to figure out what we're going to do with these 4 years at Auburn and you need to get serious about it because I was pre-med for a while and then I decided that organic chemistry was just not the way for me. I wanted to do more fun things with my summers and my time at Auburn. And there was a lot of studying, but when you get to social work, it's more of empathy and feelings, and that was just more up my alley, I guess you would say. So I did not start off with social work. I wanted to be so many things just as long as it wasn't a teacher. So
I love that. And Delane, I would just literally was telling you, I was trying to think, what did I want to be growing up? And I remember thinking just now, all I knew is I didn't want to be in the Air Force like my
uh-huh.
dad. I
Right?
not because I'm always so grateful for people who serve in our military. I mean, we need them.
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
having had been a military brat for my dad been in the military for 21 years, I get the sacrifice. But I'm like you. It wasn't that I hated the military. I just wanted to do the exact opposite
Exactly.
of what somebody else was doing. And so I love that you said, I just knew that I didn't want to be a teacher. But
Mhm.
what's so interesting, and we're about to jump into your social work journey, is what we were just saying why I created the social work podcast was because I wanted a platform for my supervisees to be able to practice public speaking. And you didn't want to be a teacher, but you ended up being a social worker. And here
Right.
you are teaching and
It
public
kind of goes
speaking.
hand in hand,
It
really.
does, doesn't
Like
it?
it's not that far off the path from being a teacher, I'll be honest. So,
Because we are educating the world. We're just not in
absolutely.
the classroom, but we are educating the world. And so, yeah, let's jump into it. How, I didn't know when I went to Auburn what social work was. I
Mhm.
literally had a professor come up to me and was like, I think you would be a great social worker. And I went to my first social work one because I was like you, I changed my major 5 times. I
Yep.
don't think financial aid lets you do that anymore, but back then they let me change my major 5 times until literally Dr. Ann Marcus was like, I think you would be a great social worker. And so that is how I found out about social work. Sat in my first social work class and was like, oh, yeah, I would be. How did you going around at Auburn playing and having a
Yeah.
good time find out
I was having a
about?
good time. It's funny that you say that, like one person can mention it to you and then you just kind of stick, like but I think for me, like my dad, he owned a farm supply store growing up. And so like he was able to own his own business and do for other people. And I think like seeing him like helping the community, not so much his business sense, but I remember like there were people in our church like if they didn't have a job he would give them a job and try to help out just the community. And so I think like he's always been the guy that loved the underdog, and I think that's kind of been instilled in me and my brother, is just helping those that may just need a leg up and a little extra help. And so when I got to Auburn, I had my fun. I was doing trying different majors, things like that. I think I even did like poultry for a while. Like I was not going to be a chicken farmer, like it was just something to do. And so finally my best friend was at Auburn with me and she was like, you love people, so why don't you just try social work? And honestly, I didn't know anything about social work. I just said, hey, okay. And the more that I researched it and saw that you could work with children and senior adults, and just there were so many avenues, that's when it kind of led me. And I'll be honest, she just said it and I sat in my first class and went in there to intro to social work, and I was just kind of like, wow, this is it. And then the best part was it just came so naturally to me. Like I didn't even have to, you didn't have to study much except when you got statistics. Now that was not my favorite, I'll say that. But other than that, it just came so naturally, just helping and wanting to make sure that other people had, things that were the best of their ability in their life, and lived that best life that they could. So it's funny, it just takes one person to mention it to you, and then you just kind of go from there. So
It
it's kind of
changes
the
your
thing.
whole life.
It really
Yeah, it
does. Yeah.
changes your whole. You know what, Delane? I took statistics twice at Auburn, so
It's
I'm
the
like,
worst.
but and I get it now. Now that I'm older, because I was like, how is this going to help me in my
Right.
social work degree? But I get it now as a person who works with researchers. They need you
Absolutely.
know.
Yes.
But
Definitely need it for
that's
that.
their lane over there.
I remember like my final project, you had to do a research paper, and I thought, this is probably the only time I'm going to use these stupid statistics, but okay. So anyway,
Absolutely. I'm glad to know I wasn't the only one who struggled
no,
with statistics at Auburn because
definitely
Lord
not.
knows I did. But I'm curious, how did you even get to Auburn though? Like, was that always just one of your schools or?
Well, so my brother is 2 years older than me, and he went to Auburn because he is an ag teacher. So he did his teaching there, got his degree there. And I actually was headed to the University of Alabama because I had gotten a scholarship, a full ride, and I was headed that way. And my dad just kept saying, it's a long, lonesome road to Tuscaloosa, and your daddy can't be there in 45 minutes for you. And so I'm a daddy's girl through and through. And so my brother was actually set to graduate from Auburn as I was moving in the fall. Like, so we were kind of like, he was moving out and I was moving in, and I already had a place to go. And so it just kind of fell into place. Like, that's where I needed to be. So, and as my whole family's went to Auburn. And so it just kind of, but again, I was going to be the oddball and go to University of Alabama.
I
But
mean,
again, I needed
full
to be close
ride
to
and
home.
everything.
Yes.
Yes,
I
yes.
wanted to be closer to home, basically. So you can't get too far away from the farm. So
And you know what? I've heard of it's Fleahop, right?
Fleahop, yeah,
Yeah, I've heard of Fleahop, and I'm wondering because it's near. Is it in? It's near Auburn.
it is. Like it only takes about 30 to 45 minutes to get
Okay.
to Auburn. So
Is it on
yeah.
the other side going like towards Atlanta?
No, it
or
would be on this side,
on
like
this side?
to
Oh, okay, okay. So it's
Palisade,
one.
that area. Yeah.
I got you. I got you. So
Hmm.
yeah, I love that name. I just was like, I just want to say it repeatedly. I want to say it repeatedly. But I love that you ended up going to Auburn. Guess what? I went to Auburn and then I ended up at the University of Alabama anyway.
See, you just never know.
Yeah. So I do got to say Roll Tide as well. But let's jump into your program. And I told you before we hit record, I have been waiting to meet you. You are the Dementia Friendly Alabama coordinator, and this is my new little wheelhouse that I have found myself in. I'm like, of course I got to meet the Dementia Friendly
Right.
Alabama coordinator, but every time I'm in a spot, you had a different, you
I
had
know.
other work you were doing all over this great state. But for those who do not know, what is Dementia Friendly Alabama, and what makes it so unique?
Yeah, so there's actually a Dementia Friendly America that started in 2015. And so right after that, our executive director at the time kind of wanted to do the same and have a Dementia Friendly Alabama, which started in 2016. So, but it's a grant provided by the Department of Senior Services. They saw the need for us to do more for dementia and Alzheimer's disease here in the state. We started with just a teensy little bit of money, but it's grown each year just a little bit. I'm not saying we have tons of money, but we have a lot to start with and a lot that we can do. I feel like we do a lot with a little bit of money. But it is a grant, and it's just to help, like it sounds, make Alabama more dementia friendly for those living with dementia, but also caregivers and care partners so that they feel like they can be included in everyday life. They can go to their local bank and not feel like there's a stigma attached, like they need to be embarrassed of something if they take a little extra time filling out the deposit slip, things like that. So it's all about bringing awareness, educating, but also building partnerships so that we can have these partnerships across the state where, a local restaurant, sure, they invite people in that are living with dementia and their caregivers, and they're not afraid to host those people and to let them in. And so I think it's the best thing ever because what if we lived in a world where each community was more dementia friendly and they didn't feel like, oh, somebody at our church felt included and didn't, if they had an outburst or something happened at church, well, then if those church members are dementia friendly and that church is, then they know better how to interact with those living with dementia. And so I just think once I moved into this role, it's just been the best thing I think ever. And also, my grandmother lived with dementia. She had it for about 12 years. She actually we ended up moving her into long-term care, but she thought that her nursing home was a hotel because she loved to travel and she loved that they when she went to stay in a hotel, they would make her bed every day. So she thought living in the nursing home, they were making her bed every day. She thought she was in a hotel. And so that just kind of like we had to laugh about it and find the funny parts of her journey with dementia and Alzheimer's disease. And I think it kind of prepared me to work in this role too. So it kind of came full circle for me. So
DeLane, I love that. Well, I have two questions. The Dementia Friendly Alabama came from CAAC. So
yes.
do you cover all of Alabama?
Yes, so it's just one little
Wow.
me traveling the
I
state. Hopefully
Yeah.
we'll get bigger where we can have like a North Alabama and a South Alabama, that kind of thing. But and we do work with the AAAs, like the area agencies on aging, to make sure like a lot of times their Alabama Cares coordinators will do like a project each year. So each year we select one big project to do throughout the state so that we can be more dementia friendly. And so like this year it was making sure that we brought more awareness to having like wills and power of attorneys done before you get a diagnosis of dementia and Alzheimer's disease or something or some life-changing diagnosis, and then you can't make your decisions for yourself anymore. We want to make sure that those are taken care of. So each year we pick a major project for the state. In the past, it's been memory cafes, elementary school education, things like that. So that's how we kind of spread it across the state. And then I'll go statewide doing some trainings and things like that too. So, but yeah, that's why I say I'm always in the streets, like if you can't catch me, I'm from one end of Alabama to the other. So,
You really,
getting the
really
word
are.
out.
I mean,
Yeah.
I knew you were doing important work, but I didn't realize it was just you in Alabama doing
Yes.
dementia friendly work. But before we move into what is a memory cafe or the resource wallet, I'm curious. I'm not curious. I know, but for our listeners who may not know, why is it important more now than ever for us to have a dementia friendly Alabama? You can even
Absolutely.
speak to the statistics if you want to,
Yeah,
even though
and I
we both.
actually do know a few statistics on it.
Yes, come on through, social worker.
So just here in Alabama, there are over 100,000 people living with dementia, and not to mention how many caregivers, unpaid caregivers that are family caregivers that are having to go along with those living with dementia. And so, and it's not going to get less. We're just going to have more and more people getting a diagnosis of not only Alzheimer's disease, but there are other types of dementia as well. And the importance of living the best life and a full life with dementia, because just because you get a diagnosis doesn't mean that life's over. People live with in the early stages of dementia for years and years. Like my grandmother, she was able to do all of her activities of daily living for herself until the very end. It was just that she couldn't remember how to get back to her room, things like that. So just the smallest things. So she lived a full life and her best life, living in her hotel, and so that's the same thing for other people out there. And also knowing that they're not alone. There's dementia and Alzheimer's disease is becoming more and more prevalent. And I feel like, sometimes we don't want to have that discussion about it. We don't want to talk about it. But there's so many fighting it and having to deal with it that we just don't want them to feel like they're alone. And so that's why Dementia Friendly is here, is to kind of help those caregivers, but also those living with dementia, and just making sure that Alabama is the best that it can be for them, and be a safe place for them to live. So,
I love that. And, want to say just because you're getting older doesn't mean you'll have dementia,
absolutely.
but because we are living longer and we do know more people. And, because I'm thinking some people in the past may have been like, Mama just forgets or Daddy,
That's it. And that's the thing.
yeah,
First thing, if like you forget where you put your keys or something like that, you automatically like self-diagnose. Oh my goodness, I'm getting dementia or something like that. But it's so much more like, like problem solving and making decisions, like bad financial decisions. I got a call the other day from a daughter whose mom was living with dementia, and she was just making terrible decisions, like calling random people and giving out her financial information. And it's just so much. So it's not just forgetting and memory loss. Like we all get stressed, and I've put my keys in the refrigerator before when I'm unloading groceries, but it's more to that. It's more of the problem solving and just the not being able to do things that we once were able to do, forgetting how to get home, things like that. And so we don't want people to be afraid of it either, just because you forgot something. We don't want to automatically go to, oh my goodness, I've got Alzheimer's disease, because there are things that we can do to keep stimulating our brains, eating healthy, exercising, things like that, to keep our brains moving and working, and hopefully be less at risk for dementia and Alzheimer's disease.
and I even want to include music. I just have to
Yes,
because my
yes.
sister's a music therapist in the dementia friendly world, and
And
so
it's so
yeah.
important. Music, just like, and just because we've done some actual like memory cafes with music too, and like
Mm.
just you can put on a song, and for a person just to remember those lyrics just automatically, like music really does just stir inside of us. And so it's such an important part of all of us too, because, like I remember songs that we used to sing in church as a little kid, and so like they just stick with you all these years. And so it doesn't matter where you are or what you're doing, those songs follow you. So absolutely.
You're right. A song literally just popped in my head. But we used to sing in vacation Bible school. So
Absolutely.
like, as soon as you said that, I'm like, yeah, literally just like that. But I want to ask you about the heart of the dementia friendly, Alabama program, like memory cafes or resource wallet cards. Can you tell us about some of the programs that are within and why that makes it dementia friendly Alabama?
Absolutely. So memory cafes are one of my favorite things. And this is just a memory cafe is just a fun outing for those living with dementia and their caregivers. Everybody gets together and we do something fun. It's not we don't talk about dementia. We don't really educate about dementia. We just all get together and we do something fun. So here lately, we've been going the local horse ranch, Maine, Montgomery area, non-traditional equestrians. They have us out for 6 weeks at a time, and we do horse therapy for them. And so they've kind of done like I'll provide lunch, but then we invite everybody else. So they do the horse therapy. I do lunch. And it's just something sensory like for them to be able to experience. But not only that, we do things like tastings because I like to do something that incorporates sensory and stimulation for the brain. So we do sensory tastings. We've done like a chocolate tasting, and we're going to do a coffee tasting here in the fall that we'll have. We've made our own candles, things like that. We even took a group to Build-A-Bear because I mean, lots of seniors haven't had the opportunity to build their own bear. I had never been. And so it was a fun experience for them just to give them something to do that they wouldn't normally be able to do. And they're living with dementia while they're doing it, which I think is really cool. So just giving them opportunities for sensory, but also to get out and experience it together. So I love a memory cafe. I'll say that.
How does that come about? Especially because you're all over Alabama, and it feels like you're doing these in not one location, but in different areas.
Yeah, so
How?
we try to
Yeah.
space it out. Absolutely. So we do a lot here in our Tri-County area, Montgomery, talking Elmore, since that's where Central is. But also like we have really great relationships with all the triple A's. So like I've got one in Huntsville scheduled for November. So we try to like space them throughout the state so that everybody has an opportunity to come to those. And so when I'm traveling and speaking places, I'm always like keeping an eye out. Ooh, that would be a great place for us to stop because I was in Tuscaloosa recently and they had like a chocolate candy factory, and I was like, "Can we come have a memory cafe here?" And they were like, "Sure." You know, like all you have to do is ask and just and because people want to include others, I feel like too. And so yeah, we try to space it out throughout the state. But we do have a lot more here because it's a little more convenient here in Montgomery too. So
So what I hear you with the Memory Cafe is, even we'll just take a place right down the road here in Montgomery where they do the sip and paint, or
yeah. Hmm.
you would go to that location, say,
Hmm.
I'm with Dementia Friendly Alabama, would love to invite some folks who've been diagnosed with dementia to come and have an evening with you, and that one educates the space about working with folks who have dementia, but also allows the person and their caregiver to have an outing to do something fun they may never have done
Absolutely.
before.
And we're building partnerships still
I
with these
love
memory cafes.
that.
So absolutely. Yeah.
That is awesome. And so it's not necessarily just at the agency where y'all are doing something,
Oh no,
but
I
and
try to
these,
get out and give
yeah.
like different restaurants, different spaces where they can experience. We went to the Montgomery Museum of Fine Arts, things like that, just so different places that we can go. I think is really good for, even if it's just a local coffee shop or something, just a place that you might not normally would be able to go or you don't think of going. But it's a safe space with all your friends living with dementia, and I've made sure that it's safe and that everybody kind of knows what's going on, not to be surprised if we had somebody that had an outburst or something happen, that kind of thing. So it's just a safe space.
And how much fun is that for you, Delane?
See, that's why I say it's like a party all the time for me. So
Oh
that's
my
why I love a memory
goodness.
cafe.
I
So
love that as a social worker. You're just going to all the fun places across the state and bringing some amazing people. And that's my next one. How do people find out? And do you have a newsletter where you're telling them the next
yes,
one?
so we
Okay.
definitely do. We have we have a constant contact email list where we're constantly sending out. And so that's really easy to get signed up for. You can go on, we actually have a dementia friendly website. And you can go on there and get signed up for that. But we also, if you follow our Facebook and Instagram, I try to make sure that it's up to date too. And so everybody kind of knows what's going on. And everything is free, so we don't charge anything. And I think that's a big thing too, is we don't want, money to be an issue. So we make sure under the grant that everything's paid for and taken care of when it comes to memory cafes and trainings and everything too. So
And this is my social work policy hat putting on. If this is the only one in Alabama, what grant even decided to take a chance and fund this? And this was almost 10 years ago now.
yeah, so it's just a state funded grant. And so
Hmm.
it started off with like $30,000 and it's built a little bit each year. So like I said, we don't have a whole lot of money, and hopefully like there's some changes going on at the federal level and even at the state legislature to get more funding for dementia and Alzheimer's disease. And so hopefully once that kind of takes off, we'll have way more for dementia friendly and include it in some other grants too that come from like public health and everything too. But for now, right now, we're just trucking along with our little state funded grant, but we're
You're
doing
doing,
lots
and
with
I
it.
wrote that down. You're doing a lot with a little bit of money.
That's
That's
that's what
social
I
work.
say. So yeah, try to do a lot
Yes,
with a
that
little.
is what social work is, and why it's so
Absolutely.
important, you guys, that we know what's going on at the state and federal levels as
Yes.
well. What
Yes.
is, one of the other programs I read that you have is the Resource Wallet. What is the Resource
Oh,
Wallet?
that's so good. So we definitely try to make sure that we give out enough like print materials and resources to those living with dementia. And I'll say that we do have a dementia resource guide that we just revised. We made it back in 2016, 17 when we first started Dementia Friendly. And sadly, it had not been revised until this year. But we did, it's hot off the press and you can find it on our website, but we also have lots of print copies. So just a little plug for that. It's a booklet, and so when a person gets a diagnosis of dementia and they may not know where to turn, what to do from there, it kind of follows all the stages, what to do, where to go, who to call, that kind of thing. And so in addition to the dementia resource guide, we have these dementia resource wallet cards, and it's just about the size of a business card, and it's purple, and it just says, "Hey, I'm with a person living with dementia, and we need a little extra time and patience." And then on the back, it says exactly what dementia is. So, for example, if I'm taking my mom and she's living with dementia and we're going out to the bank and I still want her to keep her independence and fill out her deposit slip if at all possible, but maybe it's going to take her 20 minutes to do all of this, then I can slide that card to the teller and it just says, "Hey, we need a little extra time and patience. And I'll use the example of our church. We have a little guy that's been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, and sometimes he just has like an outburst. He gets upset. And if we pass those cards out though to our congregation and those around him, they'll kind of know like this is what we're dealing with, this is what's going on, but hey, he's gonna be fine. And this is just kind of letting us know that this is what's happening, but we're not drawing attention to it. I haven't like pointed my finger and said, this man's living with dementia, that kind of thing. It's just a subtle way of saying, hey, we need a little extra time and patience, and this is what it is. And so I just think that helps keep their dignity and respect, but also helps them keep their independence because that's what we want. In a dementia friendly world, they're still independent, and they're still living and thriving, but maybe with some extra resources and help. So that's what that is.
I am loving all of this. I am. And I all the word that I heard while you were talking, especially about your person in your church, is compassion.
Hmm.
That resource card just feels like compassion. Just let's giving them a little bit extra time
That's
and
all
being
they need.
aware.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Because
yeah.
I don't, working with those living with dementia, we can't be in a rush. We're just gonna
Mm,
have to be on their timetable and have that patience and compassion for them because, like I tell people, is we have to adjust to their world. They're not able to adjust to ours, and so having that extra compassion and just waiting and just having those resources that can make life a little easier for them. That's what we want to do. So.
absolutely. And also the things you were saying just felt like they were in alignment with our social work values that the
Mhm.
NASW tells us
Absolutely.
to. And so to be able to work in a space that's in alignment with your values must feel really good.
It is like it really does kind of all line up. Like this is truly like a social work position, like I know I get to have fun and party and things like that too, but to see like the looks on faces when we're at a memory cafe, or even I've had like people that haven't even smiled in years until they get together with their groups at memory cafes and things like that. That's what it's all about, is helping people and being person centered, and seeing that there's still a person even if they are diagnosed with Alzheimer's or a form of dementia. They're still there at that root. There's still that person behind that face of dementia. So yeah.
And me putting two and two together, this started in 2016. You moved into this role in 2016. This has been your program since the beginning. Is
Well, I was actually ombudsman first, and then I moved into
and
this in
then you moved
21.
into
Yeah, yeah.
okay, 2021.
Hmm.
Okay,
Hmm.
okay.
Hmm.
How
Yeah.
but that's still a good little bit of time. How has this program changed you?
Wow. I just like, how when you just find your niche for something, this is definitely mine. Like, I loved working in long-term care and being an ombudsman because of course my grandmother was in the nursing home. So that was a good passion for me. And I thought, hey, this is where I'm supposed to be. But then you get to where you get just complaints 24/7 when you're an ombudsman. And I know that, as social workers, we're dealing with all types of, behaviors, complaints, all something's always going on. And I feel like we get a lot of that. But after a while, it's just kind of like, man, you need a break from all the complaining. And so when this opportunity opened up and our executive director was like, hey, why don't you try this for a while? And once I stepped into it, it was just kind of like, it just clicked, and there was just so many avenues that I saw that we could go and we could do, and it was just, and that's part of it, is just expanding it and doing a little more each year. Like, I wish that we could get everybody trained, but you have to rein it in sometimes and know that you have to go within our budgets and things like that, because even though we have these big social work hearts, we still have to rein it in and do what our funding will allow, that kind of thing too. So but it really has just kind of lined up and been exactly what I needed to be doing, and feel like what the Lord's called me to do, honestly. Like, and moving forward, I couldn't really see doing anything else right now, So and hoping that it'll get bigger and have more funding eventually. So
I think so too. I was like, budgets, dang those budgets
I
keep.
know.
But outside of the budget stuff, and you know what, Delane, I see your program growing. You're a social worker, so I'm rooting for you. And so I know that we not only have big dreams for stuff because our hearts are
Mhm.
so big, but we've been trained on how to implement those things. So
Absolutely. Yes.
your program is definitely going to grow. But you know, one of the things that I feel like I am in love with the CAC, the fact that you said you were an ombudsman, I always mess up that word. But the fact that you said you were an ombudsman, and
Hmm.
I want to pause here for the cause. I interviewed Cheryl Craig.
Yeah. Hmm.
Oh
Cheryl.
my God, she is such a beautiful light.
Yes. Yes.
And I love that you're like, I was doing this, but it was a lot of complaints. And
Hmm.
now Cheryl Craig is doing it and she
Exactly.
loves it. She just
Exactly.
has a heart for it. She wants to do it and she
She
made
really
she
does.
made it shine. I got, had the opportunity to interview her. Her podcast episode is actually coming out this week. So we'll
Oh,
get to
great.
learn
Yeah.
more about ombudsman. But what I keep hearing repeatedly about CAC is that you guys get moved and shifted into the programs that honor your strengths.
Yes, I think that's huge. Like, and just when you think you're in the right spots, something will happen and maybe, oh, we need to tweak it and go a different way. And that's great. Like, there's always room for movement, and you can move up the ladder, you can move, laterally. It doesn't matter. Absolutely. And so it's just finding where your niche is, and I think like for Cheryl, obviously, like she's found like she's really good. She's worked in long-term care before too. And so she's finally found like where she belongs, you know what I'm saying? And so then same for me, like I thought I was gonna do ombudsman, but then it just gotta be a little too much. But then this opened up, and wow, what a door, and what more we can make it. So with dementia friendly. And so yeah, that's one of the amazing things about working here, is that there's so many rooms for opportunity. So
And I would like to think that it's a fluke, but it's not.
no.
I keep hearing this about this one agency that has all these different programs. It's like playing checkers in our chess and
Mhm.
moving you guys around and you all finding your niche, but you all also know about all the different programs
All
as
right, and we all
well.
work together
Yeah.
really well too. Like
Yeah.
it's a team, and like if somebody needs help with an event or something like that, and I'll have lots of my coworkers come out and help with memory cafes too. So I just love that about it too, is that it's really a big teamwork opportunity. And so and we're not going to let some program fall between the cracks. If you need help, we're going to come help, and we're going to make sure that everybody knows about every program that's available, and make sure that we can get it into the hands of as many as possible too. So.
That is so beautiful. I mean, just if you, as a social worker, I've been a social worker for 26 years. To say that an agency, not the people, yes, the people, we have our hearts, but the agency has such a
Absolutely.
beautiful heart. And to hear that over, and I'm usually like, yeah, I heard about that agency, or yeah, I know about that one.
Right.
When I'm hearing people move into places, but repeatedly over and over and over again, CAC, the agency or the organization, has this beautiful heart that
Absolutely.
I'm seeing as its aura that just is gorgeous, not just for the people they're serving, but
Hmm.
also for the people who are working there. And
Hmm.
I think that is so cool. Which kind of leads me to my next question with you, Delane, is there a belief or a value about social work that has changed for you over the years? And the reason I'm like asking that, because for me, I was thinking, okay, yeah, we hear about these agencies. And so now CAC is like shifting this belief about the certain agencies that have been around a long time doing the same thing over and over. And it's really just kind of tough to, move the needle of change within the agencies. But CAC doesn't mind shifting and changing.
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, y'all are shifting a belief in me as it relates to social work. But for you, Delane, has there been a belief or a value about social work that has shifted for you since you became a social worker?
I think as far as like, when you graduate, you're a fresh graduate out of college, and I think that we're all like coming from social work, we're gonna save the world. That's how I felt. Like I was gonna save all these kids that were being abused and things like that. And I think as over the years things change, like we may not be able to save the world, but we can help that one person at a time, and it may be a group of people at a time. And so just making that little bitty ripple in the waves is going to be a huge change eventually, so like just helping a couple of people living with dementia right now. Once we get it statewide and we get it across the state and we build even more, that's where we're going to really see the change. So it doesn't mean that we have to save everybody right now. And I think that that's what we come out of college trying to do, first thing, like that's what I was going to do is save the world. I was even going to go to Africa and get clean drinking water for people, like that's what we wanted to do. But even now, like even doing something small, you're still making a difference. And so we don't ever want to think that we're not, even something as small as a memory cafe, or just putting a hand on somebody that's living with dementia, reassuring a caregiver can be such a big effect on down the road, just knowing that you've got somebody with you. And so I think like just doing small things one at a time can make a lasting impact. So,
There's a whole quote on that.
yeah,
I wish I could remember it. I'm not gonna embarrass myself. It's something about like make a small difference changes the world or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly it.
Oh,
Right.
is that the quote? Okay.
Yeah. Something like that. Yes.
I love that. And I'm transitioning us into the look ahead to the Remember Me
Hmm.
film screening and community gathering event we're doing on November 1st at CAC. I'm
Yes.
thinking about your resource wallet cards. I'm thinking about the caregivers. When you just was saying memory cafes may be something small, but as you were saying that, I was thinking about the caregivers who might need a break or a respite or a
Absolutely.
smile or remembering this is who their loved one was when they before the dementia diagnosis,
Hmm.
because we put it on music and we're singing and we're dancing and I'm seeing other people that I'm not alone in this thing, that I can do this work of caregiving for my loved one, allowing them to have a quality of life and seeing that others are trying to do the same thing. That is
Absolutely.
no small, that is
Yeah.
no small feat. That is not a small thing. And so here we are having the Remember Me film
Hmm.
screening and community gathering. We're wanting people to see somebody else's story, be surrounded by other people who are dealing with the same issues, but also get provided these beautiful, amazing resources you're
Absolutely.
talking about. November 1st at CAC here
Yes.
in Montgomery from 9 to 2. Free CUs, I know, for social workers, nurses, and long term healthcare professionals.
Hmm.
So come out and do that, and be a part of this amazing event. But Delane, what do you want people to get out of this event on the first?
Absolutely. I think it's going to be a great space for us to have a conversation, and not be afraid to talk about dementia, Alzheimer's disease, and other forms. Like I feel like a lot of times there's stigma attached, and maybe we don't want to, talk about the struggles that we're having, or hey, I do know this friend that's living with dementia, and I don't know how to interact with them. I don't know what to do. I think we can. It's going to be a great day for us to have those conversations and those difficult conversations, but also like you said, to get people connected to the resources that we have available too. We don't ever want people to think that there's nowhere to turn, they don't know where to go, because they can turn right here to Central Alabama Aging, and we'll try to, if we don't have it, we'll try to get them to that resource that they need. And so just so that people feel like they're seen, they're heard, and that we have these resources available, it's going to be a great day of conversation and also resources and putting it together and coming together. I feel like as a community where we can talk about the hard stuff. So it's going to be a good day.
We can talk about the hard stuff, but let you know that you're supported.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes, let you
Mhm.
know that you're supported. I'm super excited about this. We have talked about, I want to mention this to outside the Remember Me, just CAC in itself. I know I keep bragging on the agency, but I just been so super impressed. But I think I've interviewed maybe 8 to 10 of the coordinators so far,
Mhm.
and every single one of you have said that, and it's almost like it's indoctrinated. And so now I'm believing you. You got a believer in me. But
Uh,
every single one of you have said, if we don't have the resource, we'll help you
mhm.
find the resource that you're looking for. And
Right.
I believe that. So even if
Yes.
in all the interviews that we've done, if you haven't heard the thing, which I'm like, I don't know how you haven't heard it yet, but if you haven't heard the thing that you need for your person, the person you're caring with, whether it's a person with dementia or just some type of resource, because again, the aging, I've learned with Central Alabama Aging Consortium, it's not just dementia or the elderly, is
Right.
anybody who is aging. If
We're
you
all
haven't heard
aging.
this exactly, if you haven't heard the service yet, come out on the first because CAC will make sure they help you find that service.
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
again, this is a social work agency. I mean, my goodness. It is a social work agency, and I am loving it. DeLane, this has been such an amazing interview. You have been such a joy. I told you I've been waiting to meet you. You're a superstar in my head, and I finally got to meet you. So I'm super excited that we had this time together. But I have one last question, and I'll
Okay.
bring you back to Fleahop, Alabama. I'm gonna go find Fleahop because I want to see it. But you have mentioned spending your free time helping on the family farm in Fleahop.
Mhm.
If you were to compare building a dementia-friendly community to something you have learned from working the land, what would it be?
I will say you're always welcome in Fleahop, okay? Mom will give you a glass of
Yay!
sweet tea, sit on the front porch
Come on
anytime,
through. I
okay? Or
love
stop
that
signs,
Southern
come on by.
hospitality. Yes.
But I would say, working the farm, we're beef cattle farmers, but always, and we do hay and things like that. But working the land, Dad's always taught us to be good stewards of what we have, and so I think that that's kind of goes hand in hand with dementia friendly. Like we're gonna use and we're gonna do to the best of the abilities of what we have, and so just going forward with that, like making the most of it, but helping others, like that's the big thing too. So just being good stewards, not of land so much now where we are when I'm at home, but being good stewards of like what the state has given us and hopefully building upon that to just help a few, but hopefully make it even more later down the road. And so that's really you learn to appreciate what you have, definitely living on the farm. And so that's why I definitely appreciate what even though little funding, what we do have, what we're able to do, and who we can help, because that's the main thing is helping others. And so, and I'll say, working on the farm, you have to be really in tune with your neighbors too, because we all come out, we all help each other, especially when big things happen, like with crops and things like that. And so it's kind of the same with dementia friendly. Like we're all gonna be there to help each other and help others, and just making sure that we get the love and the respect and the compassion that those living with dementia need, getting it into the hands and the hearts of those that need it most. So,
That is such a beautiful answer. I I came up with that question today, and the fact that she had such a beautiful answer
oh,
did
thanks.
not disappoint. I love it, Delane. Delane, thank you so much for sharing your story and your work with us today. Your journey from Fleahop to Auburn to now leading Dementia Friendly Alabama. It reminds us that community transformation starts with care, creativity, and committed people. And for our listeners, if you'd like to learn more about Dementia Friendly Alabama or connect with the Central Alabama Aging Consortium, I'll make sure that we have the links to all their social media pages, their website, all of that good stuff in Delane's show notes. And I'll also make sure that I have the link to register to the Remember Me film screening and community gathering event we're having on November 1st. We would love to see you all out there and to get to meet Delane in person and get you a resource card so that you can have compassion and show compassion for those folks living in Alabama with dementia. But as always, thank you for joining us. We are as we honor the lives and legacies of those living with dementia and their families and the professionals working alongside them. This has been the Guys of Social Work podcast. I'm your host, Renita Ray Davis, and we'll see you next time.